Boom. Right, welcome, guys. We are going to be doing a call on emotions. I know, scary. We're going to be going over that thing that nobody wants to talk about because it's holding you all back, but you don't want to admit it. So let's dive straight into it. So we're going to be understanding, accepting, and managing our emotions so that we can make better decisions when it comes to trading. A lot of people like to remove or say you should be removing your emotions from trading, which is somewhat true, but we're going to be talking about how in fact, those emotions, choosing when to ignore them, when to almost listen to them, can help you in your trading. So let's go on to it.
So, why emotions matter in trading? Okay, so we have obviously the common emotional pitfalls. So we're talking fear, greed, FOMO, revenge trading, many more, as I'm sure you can imagine. Now, these emotions matter because they teach you a lot about yourself, but also about what matters. So look at it in the aspect of equal and opposite. When you see all the emotions that you shouldn't have, it teaches you the emotions you should have. So, for example, professional, profitable traders still have fear, still have greed, FOMO, and want to revenge trade. But in experiencing all of these emotions, it teaches them the latter, the better alternative, the way to cope with them. So emotions influence your trading decisions, and they obviously lead to inconsistency or the latter, consistency. So they are the most important thing because they are ultimately what decide your fate in trading. So, what are emotions?
Emotions. Well, they're pretty simple and they're actually a good thing that humans have because, to be honest, they're the only reason we're here. If we didn't have these emotions, we would be screwed. That lion would have ate us because we'd have been like, nah, I'm not scared of that. All right, I can just take its teeth out and we'd all be dead. But we're not. And that's why we still have these emotions. But unfortunately, trading is a completely separate world to the jungle. So these emotions that are ingrained in our human brain, they don't save us from pitfalls. They don't help us spot the nice home and stay away from the evil one with tarantulas in it and stuff. They, in fact, get in the way. You'll feel things like Tom's been saying, revenge, anger. FOMO is a big one, just wanting to get in trades because you fear that you've missed out on the movement or yeah, the movement. And this is natural. If you think about it, if back in the day the village was migrating and you slept in, that you'd wake up on time because you're fearful that you'll sleep in and they've all migrated to the safer place and you're still there. And that's exactly what we're all feeling. We're like, if I don't catch this, it's never going to happen again. I'm never going to catch the trade. I'm never going to succeed. That isn't how it works. That same reasoning for saying that you're missing a trade is the same reason you shouldn't do it because there'll be more. There'll be the next option tomorrow. There could be a next option in 5 minutes' time, depending on how you trade. It's not these instincts that we have hold us back in trading. I was going to say something, but I've forgotten. I'll let you keep talking and then it'll come back to me.
I've got an analogy for what you were saying about FOMO there, and it's like when you're trying to hail a taxi cab. So let's say you've just got out the
Yeah,
train, you went to the street, you're like taxi, taxi, and it leaves without you. Or let's say it's a bus, either or, and it drives off without you. Do you run after the bus or the taxi, or do you go, huh, that ship sailed, and you look behind you and go, right, when's the next taxi? When's the next bus? That's what you choose to do
exactly.
because you don't chase the trade. You let it
Yeah,
come
don't be
to
the
you.
doofus running after the 104 outside of the library in Manchester. Now, don't be that guy. Just wait for the next one. There's loads of them coming. I remembered what I was going to say and even wrote it down real quick so I didn't forget it. The key thing that you're going to be learning by listening to this and just in future throughout your trading is that emotions aren't necessarily bad. Again, like I say, it's how we survive. They still apply in real life. If you're scared of an alley, don't think, oh, would I be scared of this if it was a fair value gap? No, be scared of that alley because it's probably dangerous. What we need to decipher the difference between is those emotions and how you react to them. If you feel fear of getting in a trade and it actually keeps you out of that trade, I can guarantee you the market does like to play with us. So that moment where you're like, nah, I'm scared of it, I don't like this, it will tag you probably a perfect little bottom tick and run straight to TP. But because you were scared, you didn't follow your system. Systems don't have emotions. Have you ever walked into any kind of warehouse ever where they like manufacture something and one day the machine has just gone, I don't really feel like making biscuits today. No, it doesn't because it's a machine. We're meant to be doing the same thing day in, day out. So if you're not consistently following that, then and you're letting fear, doubt, and FOMO creep in, then you can't be following that mechanical system, and you're gonna take yourself towards failure.
I think that's a really good way of looking at emotions, but in trading in general, is that trading and the markets and your system, the whole entire thing is just a process, and it doesn't care about how you
Exactly.
feel, how you think. So you have to act in accordance to that, and you also have to understand our brains, us as humans, don't naturally operate in that way, which is why we find things difficult. That's why discipline is something not many people do have, because we feel something and we act in response to that feeling instead of what we should do. So
Exactly.
again, as Aaron said, by listening to us, you're going to learn that at the end of the day, you're actually going to have to almost rewire, not even almost, you are going to have to rewire how you think. Now, whether you want to keep that specifically to trading and rewire how you think about trading, or try use it as an opportunity to expand your mind and how you think about things in life, then I recommend it. It's going to benefit you because I'm not saying you're going to miss the bus and be like, oh, that was a stop loss, but you're also not going to miss the bus and be like, oh, just missed the bus. God's sake. And no, you're going to be calm. It's going to give you a profitable mindset in and out of the markets. So, why do we have emotions? Well, it's pretty simple. We have, I'm not going to try to say that word, amygdala. There we go, I did it perfect. The
That
fight
was
or
pretty
flight
spot on.
in our brain versus the prefrontal cortex. So, the rational thinking. So, our emotions are often a battle between logic and, well, emotions. So we have a logical thinking, and then we have our emotional thinking, which is the flight, yeah, fight or flight. So, like I was saying before, emotions is a reaction to something. So something stimulizes our brain, whether that is seeing loads of profit or seeing loads of drawdown. Our brain responds naturally to something with an emotion. So this is why we have emotional triggers constantly in trading, and is why it's so heavily focused on your psychology. And that's it's why a lot of the industry is quite scammy. They just say it's about the system, this guy, follow me, this, when they forget to mention for a second what goes on in your brain, because trading is full of stimuli constantly. Again, that's why gold is the most popular pair, because you see all these big movements. It's gold. You know, gold is literally safe haven asset. We've fought over it for thousands of years. So we have these emotions as a response, and you have to understand why we have them in order to tackle them. So that's why we're telling you what these emotions are. So the reason we mentioned the fight or flight versus rational thinking is as time goes on, you start to dissipate the fight or flight thinking, or you start to manage it. And I put it in the corner, like, okay, thank you, Mr. Fight or Flight, but I'm not greedy, or I don't want to fight the market, or I'm not going to run away right now. And you start thinking rationally, and that's what you train your mind to do. You go from linear thinking to non-linear. So,
Yeah, I think another good way to look at it, from what you were saying, how it's that battle, is that our the part of our mind that has that fight or flight, like I was saying before, it's based on almost instincts and how humans have developed over the years. Ask yourself this: from when, I don't know, like Adam and Eve were in the garden, have they had to deal with candlesticks on a chart? No, they haven't. So that emotional response that's happening, it hasn't been tested. Humans don't know that work, so ignore it. That rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is what you need to be listening to, because that's what it rationalizes what you see. It doesn't just respond based off prior experience where you've been scared. It rationalizes the situation and figures out what the best move is. So I guess that's another perspective on why you can completely ignore those silly emotions. And speaking of, which are the biggest emotional challenges in trading? So number one, I think we have fear of losing. That's definitely got to be up there. Lots of people are scared of losing. I'm going to read these all off, and then I'm going to say some helps and fixes, because I think there's one big help slash fix that helps with all of these. Second is greed and overconfidence. Then we have FOMO, and then we have revenge trading. The one key fix that I know Tom will agree with is to backtest your system. If you haven't backtested your system, of course you're going to be fearful of losing, because you don't statistically know what your next trade should hold. You don't statistically know what your month should look like, your year should look like. You're always going to be scared of losing because you don't know your results. If you've completely done your back testing, you know your data, you know your stats, you know how insignificant losing is. Like you know that even if you're trading a system that's purely 1 to 2 hours, if you lose 4 times in a row, you win twice, it's gone. What those losses meant nothing. They were just a slight setback. It just took you a bit longer to make your new equity high. If you've done your back testing, you know that. If you haven't, you're scared because you don't know what comes after those 4 losses. You don't know if you make six more. You don't know what happens. And it applies for all of these. If you've got FOMO and you back tested your system, you'll know how often your system produces an entry point. You'll know how often it happens, so you won't be scared. If you're trading things like the 1 minute silver bullet, you'll know you sometimes even get 2, 3 setups a day. So if you miss one on one morning, you're not going to be insanely like scared of missing out because you know the next one's right around the corner. It's the same as that bus analogy. If you know that the next bus is within 14 to 15 minutes away, you're not going to be that bummed. Like if you're just trying to get back home, it's not that big of a deal. The bus is coming. You won't be revenge trading because again, if you've back tested, you'll know there's no point. You know your system takes revenge for you. In essence, you don't need to revenge trade and take unnecessary risks. It's your system does it for you, and I missed out greed and overconfidence, but it's the same. You'll when you're losing and you start, or when you're winning, sorry, and you start feeling greed and overconfidence from doing those results, you will know what comes after a winning streak is unfortunately the losing streak. It always happens, and it's just a part of trading that you can't fix. It's just how it goes. That's how stats play out. If you manage to hit something like 4, 5, 6 winners in a row, the market is waiting and it wants to take some losers, whether it takes them all in one or it takes them over a period of losing, winning, that kind of thing. It will come and take them. So there's no point getting cocky and greedy because the market takes and it also gives equally in proportion as to how you back tested. So that is why back testing is the big fix for all of those.
I liked your analogy, and might not be an analogy, but I liked where you said how your system takes the revenge for you. I've never heard it be put
Yeah,
like that, but that was a really good way of putting it. Um, and it's absolutely right. Your system will do the work, and it's all about following it. But the one thing I'd say with all these emotional challenges and understanding why these challenges occur, it's because your mind isn't filled up with the right rational thinking. So when you start trading for the first time, you only understand emotional thinking because your mind has to fill the void, has to answer the questions. Because when you think of something, a question, pardon me, or something occurs, obviously your mind naturally responds. You can't avoid that. But it's obviously over time that you're able to input the right thinking, the right decisions, the right responses, and then that's how you can challenge and combat the challenges. Sorry. So, how, speaking of, how do we combat emotional challenges? Well, we start off with deep introspection. Now, this is arguably one of the tougher ones because, well, you have to kind of look at your life and go inwards and look at
yeah.
everything that's ever happened to you and understand your mind and your brain, thick and thin.
You have to interview yourself.
Interview yourself. So, identify past emotional mistakes. Now, I'm not just talking about past week. Maybe you full ported your account. Maybe you double wrist. Maybe you took 5 trades in a day. I don't want to know. But what you need to know is what mistakes have you made? Okay. So this could be in a relationship when you were in primary school. Maybe you just thought you were the kingpin and then everyone hated you after. The emotional mistake you made there was thinking you're the kingpin. You overconfident, etc., etc. You have to do this for your entire life, and it can go as deep as why do you even want to trade in the first place? What is your emotional attachment to money? Because you have to understand all these different segments. It's not just about trading and the charts. You have to understand your attachment to money, your attachment to losing. You have to understand your ego, and you have to almost have an ego death, self-created ego death, to recreate your new mind, your new way of thinking. Because if you don't, then when you lose or you see all this money floating on your screen, or when you make the money, you're going to view that money in the old way. And the old way, most likely for the average person, is going to be get rich quick, or I need money so I can spend on this. You need to, whether you think you have a good mind or not, you need to have deep introspection. You need to understand every nook and
Exactly.
cranny and make sure that on the process you're making it as easy as possible. But when you complete the process, you're also not silly because you got to remember, yes, a lot of people become millionaires. For example, the crypto bull run I like to make a good example of whenever it was in 2020. A lot of those millionaires were not a millionaire the next year because they didn't know what to do with it. So you have to understand with trading is the same thing. Once you got the skill, once you got the money, you have to maintain it. So you have to recognize
Exactly.
personal psychology trading in decisions. You have to understand everything. Every decision you make, you have to understand. You have to
Yeah,
go in. I thought you got something to say,
I
Eton.
have. I couldn't tell when you were going to stop. I think it kept like
No,
bugging and then speeding your words up. So I thought you were finishing, but it wasn't.
then go for
But
it.
yeah, I was going to say, as to what you've just said, you need to learn to understand the different types of confidence because it's fine to be confident, like you were mentioning the kingpin. Like it is fine to be confident if in that situation you are the kingpin. You can be confident within yourself. It's when you're confident and you don't have what it takes to back it up. So if you've got months of payouts, years of back testing, years of passing funded accounts, all that kind of stuff, and you've got a track record fully journaled, all of that stuff, you have the right to be confident. You don't have the right to be cocky because if anything, that's going to catch up to you and you're going to start running your mouth. And then those things you say aren't going to happen in the time you say them. And that's going to destroy you even more than being cocky. But if you're confident in, so people approach you, they ask you how your training's going, they ask you how to do it. If you answer confidently because you have those years of data to back you up, those certificates, those payouts, there's nothing wrong with that. So you need to understand which category of confidence you fall into, whether it's false confidence or whether it's proof in the pudding kind of confidence that's all backed up.
I think we made a TikTok post actually on this quite a bit ago, and it very simply said, you do not become confident or have confidence by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having undeniable
Exactly.
proof that you are who you say you are or what you are. So, like I was saying, you have
Exactly.
confidence by have building things to be confident about. So I couldn't say I'm profitable without having years of experience, multiple different trials and tribulations, which I survived all. And like Ian said, backtesting, the live markets, etc. These are all things that establish that. But you're not going to get any of that to link it back if you don't deep introspect. Now, me and Ayrton both had to have deep introspection a very long time ago. In fact, when I started trading properly, I hadn't even really done my deep introspection. It was only a couple months after that that I started having my proper deep introspection because I had a setback. The prop firm we were with put us basically back to square one, and that really was tough for my psychology. So I used it as a time to really reflect and go inwards and look in my mind. And you've got to do that. You have to have deep introspection, understand your attachment to money, to ego, to confidence, what you're even trying to do it for, what you even think of doing when you've done it, and so on. So how do losses, if losses hurt, you got to think about that. Why are losses hurting? So number two, and I'll let you take this one. I feel like you'll be good at it.
The power of understanding. I was just having to read of this slide and trying to fully figure out how to explain the power of understanding. And I think the best way I can help someone who's struggling to understand understanding is it's the difference between focusing on the micro and the macro. So if you're focusing on the micro every day, this is probably why, as Tom just mentioned, losses affect you. You get upset about losses. Now, don't get me wrong, nobody likes losses, but if you're actively being upset about them, there's a problem. And the difference is, again, someone who knows the data and someone who doesn't. If you're focusing on the micro and that loss is really upset you, it's ruined your day, you're not talking to your family anymore because you hit stop loss on the NASDAQ. Like that, that's you focusing on the micro. It doesn't matter. If you know your data and you understand how this process works and you've gone out and you're now on the macro, you know that that loss is just a small little blip in a big sea of hopefully profit if you've back tested properly. It's not anything big. So the person who understands is the person who's looking at the bigger picture, and essentially, because that way you can, as it says here, you can reframe your losses and you can focus on the process because that's the big part. If obviously there's times when we need to go in on the micro, and I think that's where deep introspection comes in, and you go into each day. And again, back to that machine analogy, sometimes you do need to go in, do that deep introspection, find out which cog is breaking down in this machine. But usually, when you go back out to how the whole product is made, I don't know, maybe you're in a biscuit factory. There's usually hundreds of machines lined up over each like warehouse. I don't even know how to explain it. If you were just focusing on one small problem and you shut down the whole plant, you complain about everything, get really upset because one cog in one little machine is broken, then you're not going to be selling hobnobs for very long. You need to focus on the macro. You need to make sure these machines run smoothly. Just because one cog's gone, replace it, get it sorted, easy peasy, boom. Focus on the macro, understand how the process works, understand how your power plant's working, how your machine's making its hobnobs, whatever you're trying to make. It
I
all
think
applies to trading. You need to get on the macro.
I think you've got something on your mind, haven't you? Some hobnobs, some biscuits.
Hobnobs.
Yeah. No, very well said. I do like that analogy. It's and a very good point. Good point about not shutting the whole shop down, about not shutting the whole warehouse, factory, whatever. And you've got to be kind to yourself, and you have to understand that, you can have slip-ups. Me and Ed still have slip-ups to this day. Some days, yes, you might be down in the dumps about something, but it is natural to have those. And like Ed said, you have to keep the factory going, and you have to address the feedback. And the feedback isn't always necessary for the market. You can still lose, and you can be like, right, that was literally the most perfect trade ever. And there's like nothing for you to really take as feedback. But the feedback might not be in the trade or the market or the result. The feedback might be in your response to that. So,
Yeah.
how do you go about your day? Like I was saying, are you there with your family? Oh, I had to stop bus today. Or do you go about your day as any other day? Now, if you were to look at me right now, as you are doing, and you're listening to me, do I look like I had a 6 RTP today? Or do I look like I had a stop loss today? You don't know because regardless of the outcome, I respond the same. Yes, it's nice when you have a 6R, but when you have a loss that's perfect, you understand the equal in that end result. I when I see my P&L at the end of the month, I don't go, that was cool, that was from this trade, this trade. I'm like, nah, that was everything combined to equal that. So
Yeah.
it's all about the power of understanding. And understanding, like confidence, comes from the whole thing, comes from all of it. You have to build understanding. Understanding's not just like, I understand now. Eventually it
Yeah.
does click like that. It does there is a click point and you understand. I'm sure you will agree. And that when you understand, that is what I would call the click moment.
I wouldn't even say it's a click. I'd say it's like
Ah.
a really slow,
Yeah.
like it's like you probably realize that you're understanding, and it probably takes like a whole month to even understood that you've just understood what you were trying to understand.
So you understood, right?
Yeah, but like
I
it,
think
you're
I
not just
understood.
like, oh my God, I get trading. It's like, wait a second. I've just completed months of back testing. Over these months of back testing, I'm now understanding more. I've also just done loads of either forward testing or live trading, and it's going well. Even the losses are feeling good. I think I'm getting there. And you'll still have blips, like we've mentioned. There'll still be days where you go like, that was not a nice loss. I made a mistake. Ah well, get back on the macro. It's just a blip.
Exactly. Understanding that bad days are inevitable. You're gonna have them. You're gonna have them. You can be perfect, but not every day. Now, step
Yeah.
three is countering emotional challenges. Journaling and reflection. Now, I'm not sure about you, the viewer, but I will talk in the eyes of me and Ayrton, and obviously the people I know around me. Previous to trading, in life in general, we actually don't often take time to reflect. And even at the start of trading, we don't take time to reflect. Now, reflection is where you learn the most. So you can go be successful in life. You can go achieve many, many things. You can do very well for yourself. But if you don't ever reflect, you don't gain anything. You don't learn how you got there. You don't see what truly got you to the goal. You don't gain any wisdom from it. You just gain the outcome and then boom, done. Same way if you just made all the money, got a payout, and then splashed it all. And then you just didn't think about it. You then driving around and you got the money again and you spend it. You're not reflecting on what that money is and where it's come from. You're not reflecting on the process. You're not taking the time to be like, okay, great, I've got this money now. Let me just sit back. And just before I spend it all, let me think, like, of all the years that have led to this moment. You have to reflect to learn. You have to reflect to understand. Now, reflecting allows you to not only help yourself in the future. So if you do something wrong, you can reflect, all right, I woke up this day and I was really ill. Huh, and I traded and I did really bad. Maybe next time I'm really ill, I should just take it slow next time. Instead, if you just woke up, traded really badly, went about your day and said, ah, it's the market, whatever, cool, and went about your day, then there's a potential you've missed out on the reflecting opportunity to learn. And it obviously links in with journaling. Journaling is an act of reflection. If you're doing it for the principle we're talking about, which is trading, so journaling your trades, then obviously naturally you're reflecting on your trade. And by journaling, it makes you write everything out and it makes sure that you're not skipping anything. you have to be honest. You have to make sure you're reflecting thoroughly. So, journaling or reflection makes you track emotional responses before, during, and after trades. So, it's always not about the outcome, it's also about the before and during. So, it's one thing that we often miss and forget. So, I'll do this
Cool.
one if, unless you want to, Atten, I don't mind.
Well, I was about to say it's quite a quick one. I don't mind
Yeah, go on.
doing this and this, but it obviously there's some some examples here. These are just some pretty basic ones, but the main thing is to find something that suits you every single morning that we can. Obviously, there's exceptions due to like illness, time, whatever. Me and Tom pretty much always go to the gym every morning, and it might not be the best workout ever. We might not hit new PRs every time,
Hmm.
but we're
We are now.
awake for the time we come to the charts. Like every time we come to the charts after hitting the gym in the morning, I can't remember a single time I've felt like, oh, I should still be asleep right now. I always feel awake. And it's the thing you've got to understand about these pre-trading rituals, especially if you're a morning trader, is they are difficult. Like the first month you're doing them for and beyond, it's hard to wake up for. But it's another example of having to focus on the macro. Every time you do it, and you're in the morning on the micro, you're tired, you don't want to do it, you just want to go back to bed. Zoom back out on the macro. Every single time you've done that over the past month, you felt much better when you hopped on the charts. So it's another example of that. But there's not much other stuff I think we can say for pre-trade rituals because that's what we do.
Yep.
But I'm not going to shun you if your pre-trade ritual is to go for a walk. In fact, that's another
I
great
was about
one.
to say that
It's not
one,
what
yeah.
I do every morning. Yeah, it's not what I do every morning. We did definitely do it for a bit. Not going to shun you away from it because it's whatever works for you.
It's all
So if we
about
go on to the next one,
it's all
because we
about the
are
routine and the discipline. It is what is
exactly
important. It's about just getting into a state of mind to trade, ultimately. So,
proving
step
to yourself
five.
that you can be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. It's just another micro, like I said. It's not always about the big tasks. So, another step to managing your emotions is actually risk management and something that's very overlooked, but simply control your risk to reduce your emotions. It's simple. If you're getting super emotional, super vexed, then the likelihood is you're risking slightly too much or a lot, way too much. Now, a way to think about this is you need to know how many losses you have in your back testing, but you also, pardon me for that, you need to know how many losses you're going to have in your back testing, but you also need to know what you're comfortable with. So, for example, if you know your max loss streak is 9 and you're risking 10 trades, you're going to be a little on edge because you know there's not a lot of room. However, if your loss streak on back testing is 5, pardon me again, and you're risking 10 trades worth, you're going to be very chilled because you know things have to go severely wrong for you to play your account. So risk management, keep it low, especially when you're first starting. This is what we say to most new traders, just risk low. If you want to go live, like we recommend not, you're entering the gulag, my friend, but don't take a lot of risk. Just keep it very nice and low. You're not going to make it in a day. Risk low. And you have to accept the risk in every trade you're taking. Again, keeping it low. So, Eton, do you want to?
Yeah, of course. And I was about to say, just to add to what you were saying, if you're actually scared about how much you're losing, then you're risking too much. If you're fearful of
Definitely.
that stop loss, because primarily of the monetary value of that loss, you're risking too much. But yeah, so exercises to build emotional resilience. There we go. So
Mhm.
visualization techniques. This kind of applies back to what we were saying at the start, the journaling and reflection. So this is something you can implement into your journaling. Actually, if you're reflecting on what you've done and how you can make it better next time, visualize that. Really think about it. If it's the fact that you weren't quite at the charts on time, you weren't focused, visualize yourself being at the charts next time. Think about it really hard and write how you're going to do that next time. And that also applies to mindfulness. We're taking in these mistakes, we're fully thinking about them, processing them, and kind of just being aware of the mistake or of the thing that you did right, because they're just as important as learning from the mistakes as learning from the good things. Simulated trading. Couldn't recommend it more for new traders because the thing is we all do it. We've all put money into a broker, we've all followed signals and it's gone wrong and we've lost a little bit of money. No matter how much it is, it doesn't feel nice. If you have the ability to see the macro from the start and understand that simulated trading is what you should be doing at the start, i.e., paper trading, not real funds, it's just numbers, then you're sorted because you can learn every single mistake on there and you don't lose any money. It doesn't hurt as much, but you learn more because it's easier and you're not kind of getting hurt by the losses. Accountability partners, and I would also add mentors to that because they're a similar thing. People to hold you accountable to say, whoa, you said you weren't going to do that. Like, it doesn't get much more important than that because now in the live markets, that accountability partner is always here in your mind. He's always watching. So every time you go, like, ooh, I know I just lost like 60 times in a row, but I'm thinking if I risk the rest of my account and like go for 6 million R, then I might be able to make it all back. You know that your accountability partner would probably slap you around the face and that you shouldn't be doing that. So think about their view. Think about if you were the person watching you do this as well, would would you be happy with you doing that? That's a lot of use, but I think you know what I mean. If you were the accountability partner watching yourself do that stupid trade, would you slap yourself? You probably would. So don't do it.
I,
So
I
they're
don't th
all things in practice.
I don't think we'd be where we are if we didn't have each other. That's one thing to say. We've
Exactly. Yeah.
definitely helped us each other progress to great lengths more than you would think. So if
Yeah.
you have a brother, a friend, anyone, even someone you meet online, just try become very close to each other. Not necessarily best friends for life, because that obviously can't always happen, but at least agree to be accountability partners. At least agree to be a benefiting kind to each other, because that is
Yeah.
gonna save you a lot of time and energy, but also keep you in check. And that's what we need a lot of the time is
You can even use our platform. Like, take advantage of the free. If you're in the paid, use that as well because there might be a bit more on it. But no matter what you're in, use what we've given you. Like, you don't have to show up to these calls, but there's a group chat waiting for you full of like 41 traders right now, people who are at least somewhat interested in trading. I guarantee you, if you message a few of them or put a message in the group chat, someone will get back to you and you'll have an accountability partner. And for you guys, this thing is constantly growing. We're constantly putting content out. So you will constantly be getting new potential accountability partners. Use it. Like it's free. You don't have to show up to these calls if that's not what you want. But show up for yourself. Get in the group chat, talk to people, that kind of thing. Find an accountability partner because I don't think it gets much more important, even though I think a lot of people advertise trading as a lone wolf game, something that you do on your own. It's much easier when you don't do it on your own.
it is a lone wolf game in the aspect of your trading comes down to you at the end of
Yeah,
the day. But like everything, no matter what business venture you want to go into, if you want to scale it, if you want to help yourself or help friends, if you want to do anything other than just like trade for yourself, you're going to need someone. So even if you and your friend want to maybe help some other friends, or even if you want to help some friends, that having someone to do it with you is always going to benefit you. And to link to
exactly.
what I was saying about the community, the more you put in, the more you get out. It's simple as that. And the difference between the paid and the free is the people in the paid are there because that shows they are willing to put more in to get more out. And it's as simple.
Yeah,
You put more in with someone, an accountability partner, you're going to get more out. So the more honest you are with them, yourself as well, the more you're going to get out. The more they're going to like, hey man, yeah, I understand you've had a bad day. And it's had the same thing. Hey Tom, I know it was a bit silly, but just blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah man, it's not my day today, but moving forward, blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, all good. These days happen. You just had a lovely conversation. You two are both now closer, and Ayrton is less likely to even do anything close to the BS that I just did on that day because he doesn't want to be a
exactly.
hypocrite. So,
I guess
summary,
one last thing. I guess you can read that if you want, but one last thing to realize why the paid might have more people on it is because that money is their accountability partner, which is another good way to look at it. It's holding them accountable. So they go on the page. This is about to be wrapped up automatically, but emotions are normal. They just must be managed, and trading is about probabilities, not emotions. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've had a great time talking about it.
me too.
But
Feels like we could talk about it forever.
yeah, exactly. That's why we've got it limited because otherwise we will just talk forever. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I guess we can just wrap it up here.
Leave some feedback. Love to hear from you
Yes.
guys. Peace out. Hope it helped.